Fordham here. We're going to talk about some box and whisker plots, but this time we're going to start comparing them now. In the last video we talked about what is a box and whisker plot and how to read them. So you should be able to tell me that, for instance, that's the lower extreme and that's the upper extreme. The medians are right there, lower quartiles and upper quartiles. If you can't do that, you might want to go back and watch the last video. So here's an example. A football coach is comparing the last 2 seasons. He's looking at the points his team scored. Each season, they played 10 games. And some key information right there. That's going to be pretty big when we get to do some more work. So here we have the box and whisker plots of the 2 seasons and what they scored. Notice how we don't have the data. That can kind of complicate things, but it all depends on the question being asked. For instance, the first question asked is, how many times did the team score below 10 points? So this counts for both seasons. And what we need to do is, well, we kind of need to figure out how that all works. If you remember before, the median is the middle point of the data. Okay, and that's going to be pretty big. So both seasons they played 10 games. So I'm just going to scoot this up a little bit and give us some room to work with. Right there, sounds good. Okay, so what I want to do is they played 10 total games. So we're going to go ahead and make this over here season 1. Well, if they played 10 games, that means they're going to have 5 to the left of the median and 5 to the right of the median. And the reason is, if they played 10 games, if we were to write this out kind of a longer way, and I want to kind of demonstrate this. Suppose I don't actually know the numbers, all right? I added extra paper. So let's just make up random data. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Assume these 10 bubbles represent the data. Okay, and they're just numbers, but we just don't know what the numbers are. And it's organized least to greatest. So you would do as we did before. So cross out, take one from each side again, take one from each side again, take one from each side again. And you'll see that the median will be between, giving us 5 numbers on each side. Again, that's because the median splits the data in half. So it should be balanced to both sides. Sometimes it might be a decimal, and in the next problem we're going to see that. But since we had an even 10 numbers, we can put 5 games below the median, which was 20, and 5 games above the median. Now the focus here is 10 points. And 10 points for season 1 is the lower quartile. So what we need to do is take this and break that in half. So that means it would be 2.5 and 2.5. Now, half a game, last time I checked in all my sports career, you don't play half a game. So what that means is, the halves, the median here was an actual data point. So again, if I were to go back to the bubble chart that I just drew a little bit ago, so you can see that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I was trying to find the lower quartile, shade, you would see that the lower quartile would be exactly 10 points. Since the question being asked, how many times do they score below 10 points, we don't include that game. So in reality, it's only going to be 2 games. So on this side, it'll be 2. For season 1, 2 games. We're going to do the same thing with season 2 now. We did season 1 before season 2. Might be jumbling up my words a little bit. The numbers get confusing. So for season 2, again, they played 10 games. So what I'm going to do is, again, try to think about, there's going to be 5 games below the median and 5 games above the median. Remember, the median will not be a part of our data. And it looks like I need to focus on, for season 2, the lower quartile. So I'm going to do the same thing as before. So that means 2.5 to the left and 2.5 to the right. You can't have half a game. That's impossible. So that means this lower quartile is actually a number in the data. So that means it'll be 2 above and 2 below. So what that tells me is, just like before, because they're both lower quartiles, we're going to have 2 again. So how many times do they score below 10 points? Well, 2 in the first season, 2 in the second season. So we can safely say it was 4 times. Okay. Now, about maybe another question is being asked, how many times do they score above 25? So what we have to do now is look at where 25 falls. For instance, in the first season, it's the upper quartile, but in the second season, it's the median. So I'm going to approach this just as I did before. Nothing really different here. So I'm going to do season 1 on the left, and I'm going to do season 2 on the right. All right. So for season 1, what we're looking for above 25 So that was greater than the upper quartile. So again, we split the data in half, 5 and 5. We're focused on the upper quartile, which splits to 2.5 and 2.5. And as you're probably catching on, can't have half a game, which means that data point is part of the median. So there are 2 games above the upper quartile. So for season 1, it was 2 games. Now we got to go ahead and do season 2. Season 2, we're looking for greater than the median. They played 10 games, so 5 and 5, and we can actually stop there because the median is the first line I just drew, so here it is, 5. 2 plus 5 would be 7 games total. So our answer to the first problem will be 7 games. Let's take a look now at another example here. So, the boys and girls basketball teams are comparing points scored. The boys have played 13 games while the girls played 12. So this time, there's a difference in games. And that's going to be very critical when we go to do the comparison. And you can see we have the boys' data and the girls' data. Looks like the girls average a little bit more than the boys. Go figure. So the question, the first one being asked, is how many times did both teams score below 50 points? So I'm not the greatest artist, so we're going to assume. And on the SOL and other questions I've ever seen asked like this, it's usually very nicely drawn. I'm doing this by freehand, so I apologize. But we're going to make a bold assumption that those fall on 50. So for the boys team, it's going to be everything, it's going to be less than the median. And for the girls, it's going to be less than, works a lot better if you draw the symbols the right way, less than the lower quartile. Okay. Now, just to reiterate some key data real quick, the boys played 13 games, the girls played 12. So that's going to make a big difference. Alright, so let's start with the boys. And we need to split the data in half. They played 13 games. So if my median's here, and cut that in half, 6.5 and 6.5. Like I said before, I've never seen a basketball game or football game or any game of sorts just end halfway through. So what that means is, since we have a half on both sides, the median is a data point. So that gives us 6 below the median, 6 above the median, and one of the data points is a median, for a total of 13. That's good. So, for the boys, we needed to do less than the median, which would be 6. And the question said score below. It does not include 50. So, for the boys, it's going to be 6. For the girls, we need to do less than the lower quartile. Okay, so here we go. Going to go ahead. They played 12 games, so that means 6 and 6. And now, again, since it worked out nice on both sides, the median is not a data point. And then we need to break this down to 3 and 3. So, since we want less than the lower quartile, that worked out that it would be 3. And 6 plus 3 would be 9 total games. So there's our answer to that problem. Alright, well, let's take a look at one more question, and then that should at least give us a good grasp of what's going on here. How many times did each team score 55 or more? Ooh, or more. That's a little dangerous. That's going to change things. So that means we have to include 55 if a data point falls on it. So let's go back up to our beautiful graph here that Mr. Fordham's so great at drawing. Here we go. So 55, and again, we'll assume it was a much better drawing. So for the girls, it looks like 55 is the median. And for the boys, it looks like it is the upper quartile. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did before. The boys played 13 games and the girls played 12. So for the boys, it's going to be 6.5, the median, and 6.5. But like I said, you can't have half a game, which means the median is the data point. 6 plus 1 is 7 plus 6 is 13. So that still gives us the 13 games the boys played. Now, we want the upper quartile or more. So what we're going to do is take this 6 and split it up to 3 and 3. Since it's balanced on both sides, we don't have to worry about the median. And we want the upper quartile and bigger, which would be 3. So the boys had 3 games where they scored 55 or more. The girls, remember, the girls only played 12 games. So we're going to go ahead and start off 6 and 6. Again, since 6 plus 6 is 12, that works out nice. The median, there's no decimals. So we know that there's 6 below and 6 above the median. So the median would not be an actual data point. All right, now we need to calculate, for the girls, we actually just care about the median. It's got to be greater. Done. So we put 3 and 6 together, and that gives us 9 total games, just like the answer before. And that's how you compare box and whisker plots. Thanks for watching.